I think at the elementary school level, at least in my school, which is in Western Massachusetts, it begins even before starting the club. So just beginning with making sure that you have inclusive curricula at your school, that your school has a welcoming culture, that you're using lots of vocabulary that has to do with gender and sexuality. And then after you develop a baseline of inclusivity and a really welcoming community, I think then you can start to introduce the idea of beginning to build a GSA or a rainbow club. And I think in elementary school, it's really like so many other topics of interest or ways that you teach kids in elementary school, you're opening up conversations. For a lot of kids and for a lot of families, it's the very first time that they're being exposed to anything outside of the heteronormative, dominant culture. And for others, it's the complete opposite. It's the first time that maybe they're seeing in a system, the education system, that their own children or their own gender expression or gender identity or sexuality is being validated at a school. So I think it kind of runs the gamut, and it's just as important for both of those people, as well as everyone else in the middle. And I think something nice about starting with inclusive curriculum and then kind of building to a GSA is that you can start reading books that are about all different genders, or watching little videos that represent people of all backgrounds. And then questions will come up organically, like they do with children. And then you can start to say things like, well, I'd love to explore that more in our Rainbow Club. You can kind of build basic questions, organic questions, or build a Rainbow Club off of that. And another last thing I would say is that I think often at the elementary school level, there is potential for pushback. And I know some of you submitted questions about this that we'll talk about as the panel goes on. But there's a lot of potential for pushback around adults saying, well, that's not an appropriate topic to talk about with young kids. And I think what's happening there is a lot of adults are equating sexuality and gender. So often in my own Rainbow Club, I'll list in any sort of literature that we hand out, I'll list different sexualities, different ways of identifying, but I'll really make sure that caregivers understand that we're really exploring a lot of gender. We're exploring a lot of like gender expression and gender identity and different ways of you can be a boy, or lots of different ways to be a girl, or lots of different ways to be both or neither. We're looking at knocking down, identifying stereotypes and then seeing how we can knock them down. So I think just being really explicit too around what a GSA really is at the elementary level. It's about inclusion. It's about exposing kids to lots of different ways of being. It's about bringing kids together who might not otherwise talk to each other. That it goes beyond just talking really explicitly and seriously about sexuality and gender. That it's so much more than that.